So every day on my way to work, I drive this road, and I've been passing this boat sitting in the yard at the Smitty. And I've often wondered about it and wondered what its story was, and it's kind of sad sitting up there on its trailer, looking a bit unloved. And then my friend sends me a message with a web link, and says it's for sale, you should buy it. And I phoned the guy up who's advertising it, and he says, oh look, it's all there, you know, there's really it doesn't need a lot, it just needs tidied up. And it is a wee bit messy inside, you know, it feels a bit unloved. So I'm starting to think, no, maybe this isn't such a bad buy, maybe it's something I could do, you know. And then he says, oh, one thing though, it's lost its rudder. I thought, oh, here we go, it's not got its rudder. But it's okay, he says, I know what it is. Right, we now have to go fishing for a rudder to see whether we can find it and actually make this boat something that's worth having. So will we find it or not? I don't know. She is a Colvick UFO 31, which is a cruiser racer from the 1970s some point. Fin keel, no rudder, and generally looking a bit sad and like she needs a new fool to take her on and give her a loving home and some sea time. So the story goes that she lost her rudder while she was on a swing mooring in the bay. The owner came to sail her one day and discovered that the rudder was missing and the tiller was sitting loose in the cockpit. I had a bit of a chat with the owner, and he put me in touch with some guys at the boat club, particularly a guy called Mike, big up Mike, who gave me the GPS coordinates for the location that the mooring was on. It's about 300 metres or so off the seawall. Unfortunately, that mooring's been removed, so there's no easy way to mark it on the sea, as it were. But Mike told me that there is a new mooring very, very close to that location for a boat called Highbrow, which is still in place and I could find if I went out and wanted to have a look. As you can see, Highbrow's mooring is about 10 metres to the south-east of where Savannah's mooring was, so if I can find Highbrow's mooring, I can find Savannah's mooring. What I'm really hoping is that the rudder will be visible from the surface, but in order to know that I need to know what the depth is like there. So using the sewage outfall as a bearing on this chart here and adjusting for 300 metres-ish off the beach, you can see we're just into that mud, sand, shells area, although there's sand in front of it. So I'm hoping that maybe it's still in the sand, because if it's in mud or weed we'll never see it. And about 4 metres deep, so maybe we could see that from the surface on a still day. Definitely going to need a super low tide though, a tide that's down to that chart datum of 4 metres. Luckily we've got some of those this weekend. All I need now is a suitable craft. Rudder fishing in the Cromarty Firth, which is going to hold a number of challenges for me, including where is the rudder, where should the rudder be, and how do you operate this craft? How this works. I think we'll start off kneeling, shall we? Right, so the next question is, where are we supposed to be going? Right, so there's the position that's probably at. Here's me. So we're making a bit of progress now, Sheila. Even in the very, very small amount of chalk that's here, things are getting wet. So we're looking for a mooring for a boat called Highbrow. Brilliant sea crafties. Don't know if I'd fancy crossing the channel in one, for instance. Aha! I think that says Highbrow on the side of that, and he's got a nice pickup buoy here, so let's have a wee shot of that, shall we? Will we hold us for what we need? Right, let's have a look at this then. Where are we in relation to where we're supposed to be? We're pretty much on her. think it's now time for a bit of snorkeling. I don't know how this is going to work actually with a beard. Well, I don't know about you, but I couldn't see anything in there at all. So I think we're going to have to get off the paddleboard. I don't know how I feel about that, if I'm totally honest. It's going to be called shot on mission rudder. Maybe I should have asked you to show me how to use this before I buggered off into the sea with it, meh? Ah, I can still see the bottom, there's a starfish. This is looking far more promising than the other day. Quite excited about this. Now, I realised yesterday after I went home that the thing that I moored it to on this actually was Velcro and would come off, so I know this isn't much better. George Sylvester is not impressed. Oh, it's cold though. That's no better than last time. Managed to buoy Savannah's last night position, but I don't really know how deep the water is. I can't see the bottom, but I don't think it's that deep given how much line I've still got on deck, on board here. So I'm going to, I think, put on the mask and have a wee bit of a free dive down and see if I can see how deep it is. See the bottom there, it's sandy. So it's sandy down there. So let's just say it's going to be a boat length this way because it will spend most of its time on a westerly wind. That would be somewhere about here. That's just hopeless. You can only see such a small amount of sea every time I do it. Well, conditions wise it doesn't get much better than this. It's absolutely black and beautiful. I'm just in a little water here. So avoid the location, and I reckon I'm in about 3 metres, maybe 4 metres of water here, and when the water gets to just about deeper than my paddle is, which is just taller than me, so 2 metres, 2.2, something like that, I lose visibility. So I think another day like today, bright, calm, with a bit of a low tide, and we've got 2 super low tides, or 3 super low tides in the next 3 days. I just need one of them to line up with daylight and some decent calm weather, and I might have half a shot. Other thing is, when I'm diving onto the seabed, my ears hurt, which might be wimpy, but I think I might try it with some earplugs. So earplugs, a little bit less water, another day like today, and at least I'll be able to see a proper area of the seabed and not just a metre squared at some unknown point in my radius. And we'll focus on the east and then the west ends first, because that's where statistically the boat would spend most of its time, either on an ebbing or a flowing tide. And we'll see how we get on. But I feel like we're making progress, even though all I've done is have a nice paddle board in the sun and see a jellyfish. It's 5:30 now, and we're an hour and a half away from low water on a 0.7 metre tide. And on Saturday we've got a 0 metre tide. So if I get in the water at low water on Saturday, when we've got a 0 metre tide, we're probably going to have 1.3, 1.4 metres less water under me than I did today, and that might be the difference between being able to see the bottom and not. By this point in the process I was starting to get a little bit despondent. I couldn't see the bottom of the sea no matter what I did, and I decided to try and change tack. I came up with the idea that if I could use my GoPro on something long enough that I could lower it to the bottom and keep it there, that perhaps I would be able to see more of the sea. Turns out GoPro's Wi-Fi feature, which allows you to use them as a remote camera, you know, a closed circuit camera, doesn't work once you go into the water, something to do with relative densities and diffraction. But I did find a little bit of a spiffy solution. So, like all good things that you might try and do, somebody else has already done it and they've done it better than you could think of. So this is quite a duct tape heavy solution that some very clever Polish guy thought up.
Can I do it?
Yeah, do you want to swap?
Yeah, that's what.
And it involves coax cable being sellotaped to the outside of where the Wi-Fi antenna is on the GoPro to enable you to use Wi-Fi under the water.
That's swap.
And I think you can see what the obvious application of this would be if one was trying to find a submerged object and wasn't very good at diving, for instance. And what I've done is I've stuck it on the end of the surveyor's pole, which is 5 metres long, and that means at low tide, even on a reasonably high low tide, if you know what I mean, we can see the bottom. So let's get serious and organised. About this point, my mate Ewan, who got me into this mess in the first place by sending me the boat advert, mentioned that, oh, I have scuba gear on my boat, why don't we just use that? Well, thanks Ewan for letting me mess about with a paddleboard and a snorkel in the sea by myself. Sorry, I meant I was very pleased to accept his kind offer of help with some scuba gear. I also at this point started filming on my phone, in portrait mode. Sorry about that, it's almost like I don't know what I'm doing. We set a line up about 35 feet long to describe the arc that the stern of the boat would have gone through when she was on her mooring, hoping that the rudder would be somewhere on this path. Ewan walked round in circles at the extent of this 35 feet bit of rope, gradually taking in a metre or so of rope each time to ensure that all of the seabed was searched. After about half an hour or so, I was starting to give up hope on the boat, when he surfaced and told me the good news. I was absolutely overjoyed. I couldn't believe it. It's been so long messing about in the sea to try and find this thing, and finally it was here. I was very excited on the boat. 4 metres below me, Ewan was expertly tying? Well, tying. He did tie it. Is that tying or is that wrapping? I don't know. I don't even know what he's doing there. Anyway, he attached the rudder to the rope. I think there's knots involved there, maybe not ones that have ever been classified in a knot book, but let's ignore that and move on. The point is, we got the rudder suspended under the boat. Here she comes!
Get the heavy bit out of the water now. Should you just push me away with this thing, or what do you think?
What are you going to do now? Right. Right. Well, that's
It's kind of like a T-bar weight down there. And I thought, it was just like perfect shape rudder, something big in it. It was all rusty, but it must be it. Nah. Dug at something else. I said, oh, there's a starfish. I overlooked a starfish. I just looked up and saw a fucking bit of silver. I thought, there's that blue there as well. So I rubbed it and I couldn't think.
yeah, all the silk came up.
Yes! It must have been building that.